On Commonwealth, and welcome back to another episode of the Bluegrass Soccer Cast, your home for all things soccer right here in the beautiful Commonwealth of Kentucky. It is beginning to feel a lot like fall out there, John, and I could not be happier. What say you on the start of the fall season?
I mean, I like fall overall. I think some people overdo it, especially in Kentucky, because right now it feels like fall, but y'all don't really get fall. You have like a
No.
week.
Yes.
You have a week where the leaves are still up
Yep.
and it's cool,
Yep.
and then they just all drop,
Mm-hmm.
and then it'll
Yep.
go back
And they're
to
gone.
being like 70 degrees
Yep.
for no
Yep.
reason.
For absolutely no reason at all. But it is what it is, man. And it's that beautiful time of year. Also, my birthday's in fall, so that also makes me like the season a little bit more.
Yeah, but it's your
John,
fall birthday, like my fall birthday.
oh, do you want to say that on air, or do you want to save that for off air?
I mean, I don't care if people. I think it's on my Twitter.
Oh, okay.
my
Mine is
my
October
birthday.
17th.
Yeah, my birthday's Thanksgiving. Get on my level.
Oh, look at you, Mr. Thanksgiving baby.
Happens
Look
like
at you.
every 14 years, but
I like. Is this year? Are you on Thanksgiving? Nice.
yeah.
So they better have cake. So do you have cake or do you have pie at Thanksgiving? We're getting way off track.
Okay. I am. This is very controversial. I do not like pies.
Oh,
There has never been a pie, regardless if it's like pecan or pumpkin or
oh,
key lime or
oh,
apple or any of that type of sort
my
that I have found I like.
favorites.
I think it's mainly a texture thing for me.
Oh
I think
no,
however they're
John.
cooked, I just don't like them.
I am a pie guy. Like I love pie. I don't like cake, especially now
I'm
with my
not big on
non-dairyness. But
cakes either. I like cake, but like it has to be the right kind of cake. I am more like a
mm,
cookie brownies, or like I would say if I had to pick a baked good, it'd be brownies.
yeah, and I think especially over the last several years with the emergence of Starbucks and Insomnia cookies and Crumble cookie and stuff like that, I definitely can say that I
Listen,
much prefer those kind of treats as opposed to like a whole slice of cake or something.
crumble is overrated. I like crumble,
It
but
is a bit
those
expensive,
cookies are very expensive and they're very overwhelming.
but
They're like
Crumble,
way
we
too much.
love your product, and if you want to
I
sponsor an
like
episode, let
I
me know.
like crumble. I just think it's a little overrated. I think insomnia. If you have a fresh insomnia cookie, because they serve
Oh,
those like warm, those
yeah.
hit. Those hit.
So I have to get the dairy free or the vegan cookies, and they're almost always fresh. Oh, it's
Yeah, because
delightful. Now
I don't think they're
go
chilling with
for it.
like 24 vegan cookies. Just be like, oh, everyone orders these, so we gotta make sure we just have extra.
Exactly. I'm a special boy, John. I get the warm cookies. You get the leftovers.
My cookies are still warm.
John, let's go to our what is honestly probably one of my favorite parts of the show. I forgot my Apple Watch. Oh well. Um, I want to do our random icebreaker question of the week. Here we go. Show us your phone background and tell us the story behind why you picked that image.
Which one?
Your phone background. Oh,
Again,
well, I
yeah,
guess if
which
you're
one?
lock
Because
screen and
I with iPhone, you have a
yeah,
bunch.
you have two.
So when
Yeah.
I'm home,
You clear off my
I have
notifications.
like a home setting, which is just
Uh
my
huh.
wife at the Chattanooga airport, or not airport, aquarium. And
I was like,
then
there's an airport in Chattanooga?
my regular one is one of us from our wedding. Um, and then my work one is just like this water background I found
Oh, because
because
pools. That makes sense.
yeah. And then I have a sleep one, which is literally just black.
Wow.
Uh,
So I
well,
just
it's
learned
like
two
the
things about you.
iPhone. It's like the iPhone sleep setting
Oh,
type
okay.
thing. I set like the alarm thing, so it just does that. I have one that's specifically when I'm like following soccer and stuff, and
Mm.
that is of Francesco Totti.
Okay, that looks pretty cool with the red. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I then have my Lexington one, which is a shot that they gave out of Tariq Mohammed. Can't really
Mm.
see here.
You can kind of see it, yeah.
And then my last one's my driving one, which I like Formula One, so it's a overhead shot of Charles Leclerc's car.
Nice. Did you take that picture?
Heck,
So I just learned two things
I think
about you,
that's
John.
in Monaco too.
Oh,
I've
what?
never been
You
to
haven't been to
Monaco.
Monaco, John? Come on. Everybody's been to Monaco, right? Everybody in the chat say I've been to Monaco. I learned two things about you just then. One, you like to have different backgrounds for different settings. And two, you use military time.
Military time is superior
I mean, why?
because one is how everyone else does it. Two,
Really? The rest of the world? I didn't know that, honestly.
I was literally walking around Italy and I didn't know this. I had heard that Europe was kind of like this, but I didn't think it was like that big of a deal. And I asked some random guy, my group, either I forget if I did or someone in our group asked like what time is it? And he straight up said like 16:22. And my entire group, but like me and one other kid who was in like NKU's ROTC program looked at like wait what?
So was that 422, right? Let's go.
I just think it's easier to because like it's for me it's more straightforward. Like I had to actively catch myself sometimes when I'm writing articles not to put like not to put
7 p.m.
1900.
Yeah, I could see that. I am way more simpler than that, John. I have one, which is just a picture of my wife and I at Taylor Swift in front of Nissan Stadium. And I waited on my phone for like 9 hours to get those tickets. And
I
I'm
had
so glad I got them.
I had 18 tabs open
Holy
because
God.
well no that was because so I have a little more free time at my work where I'm
Mm,
like sitting in front of a computer and I can have the ability to do that. My wife's a
right.
pharmacy tech, so she didn't necessarily
Yeah.
have that ability.
No free
And she
time.
has three younger sisters, who the youngest is 14.
Mm.
So I was sent. They made me do it. I had 5 pre-sale codes, and I was told to get
Make
in
it work.
anyone that was in a 10-hour drive of where we live.
Wow.
And we still didn't get tickets.
Did you get them on the second chance?
No, because the Capital One, oh, like the second go around? No, they didn't.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And then the Capital One, because her dad, my father in law, has a Capital One credit card. That one, like, bobbled it. Like, they didn't have,
Yeah.
like, any at all. It's just the amount of anxiety I went through that day for a concert I wasn't even going to go to. And like her youngest, like her second to youngest, like literally went through all the stages of grief.
all
Like
in one setting.
I physically over a month watched this girl go through like denial and like she's just like it's fine, you guys got it, you're just lying to me, you're just pulling my chain, it's gonna become day of concert and we're gonna go. And I'm just like, no, I didn't. No, I'm sorry.
Wow. Well, on that depressing note, today we have another fantastic show for you. And I want to start, kind of mix a little bit of the bottom line and off the top. To start with Racing Louisville. They had a magical, a magical run last week, making it all the way to the NWSL Challenge Cup final. Unfortunately, they did fall short in that matchup, 2-0 to the North Carolina Courage. But I don't want to lose sight at how great this was for this team and for this fandom and this club in general, right? So if you think about it in a week span, they beat two of the best teams in the regular season of the NWSL and the number one seed in the
historically.
Challenge Cup. Yeah,
They
historically,
beat
yes.
they beat two of the historically best teams in
Yeah,
the in the league, and they right now there's only one team they've never beaten.
right. And
That's
who
the
is that?
Courage. The Courage.
See,
There
I
was a
knew.
lot. Listen. I understand racing fans where you can be sad,
Yes.
but this is like arguably the best week you've had ever.
Yes. Yes. It was a great week to be a fan. And yes, it would have been even better to hoist a trophy, right? To raise a banner. That would have been
To
even
raise
more phenomenal.
to win their first legit trophy. We had some
Yeah.
people with some of the stuff we posted coming at us with, did I imagine the 2021 Women's Cup? The Women's Cup is a friendly invitational tournament. There's no
Yeah.
way to like physically earn your way into that. It's just
Yeah.
whoever the
It's
organizers pick.
invitation.
So
Hmm.
it is a trophy, but it's like a preseason type trophy
Right.
because like I did my digging because I hadn't heard of this, and like the semifinal against the Red Stars
Hmm.
ended in a draw, and the NWSL counted that match as a draw. It was an official NWSL match, and then the shootout was solely for the Women's Cup. I was like, that is evidence right there how that's not like a big trophy. That's a
No.
preseason trophy. Every
Yep.
club has preseason trophies.
And there's nothing
No
wrong
one
with it.
no one counts that. Spurs has preseason trophies. Yet the whole thing with Spurs is they've not won a trophy since like the 70s. There's a
Hmm.
reason why like actual tournament trophies or season trophies are like a big thing and not a two off game
Right. And
tournament.
I'm not big on like moral victories or anything like that, right? Like you win or you lose, right? But I just think this run that they've had over the last week and a half, 2 weeks or so, should not be forgotten just because they lost 2-0, right? Like,
It wasn't.
go for
It
it.
was a perfect storm of losing 2-0.
Yes.
They had to travel all the way out to Seattle,
Yep.
all the way over to North Carolina,
Yep.
which I think they even stopped in Louisville to train. Unless
Wow.
maybe
I mean, it makes sense.
the hard thing with content that comes out of teams is that sometimes you have no idea when that stuff was shot.
Yeah.
Because like Lexington put out a thing where they were like on Saturday or something, like a training little thing, or it might have been Sunday morning. I know for a fact they didn't come back to Lexington after NOCO, but
No.
just like gave it the image they did. They media teams have stuff in the chamber, so it could be fresh, but it also could be shot before they went out to Seattle or something like that.
Right. And you mentioned the storms, right? That was something else I wanted to talk um, about specifically the championship game. Why the was this game played at noon on a Saturday?
I don't listen. I can understand the Saturday thing because the date was set
But
prior.
noon?
I didn't understand the noon. I didn't
So
understand because I thought, oh, NCFC because the Courage share the stadium with them. I was like, oh, it
yeah,
must be at noon because they're playing at home,
would have made sense.
and the league can't reschedule that because that one's set in stone. And
Yeah,
they just found out Wednesday that they were hosting for the championship. I was like, okay, whatever. No, they were in Greenville.
yeah, that would have made complete sense. So you're telling me the number one seed, Seattle, OL Reign, right? They were the number one seed. If they had beaten Racing Louisville, North Carolina would have traveled to Seattle to play a 9:30 a.m. local kickoff game.
That's what I'm
Huh?
questioning because I couldn't find anywhere where it mentioned when, like the championship game was, because you can do
Yeah.
searches where you can find articles that are posted prior to stuff,
Right.
and I couldn't find it. So that was an active decision from like Wednesday onward, or around Wednesday, to play that game. And I don't know if that was by CBS. I don't know if that was by the league.
Yeah. And
It's
and
just
that's what I thought.
it's
Like,
hard. It was really hard. The NWSL is always looking at a new broadcast rights partner,
I
which
hope they do.
I do at the same time, but I also worry if they go to like ESPN that some issues are going to arise.
I
Because
honestly don't think they'll go to ESPN. ESPN doesn't have the money, and I
no,
don't think they're interested in soccer.
it would be interesting if they partnered with the MLS
And did Apple?
and
Now
did
that
like
would be interesting.
if they did something with that where like one, I think Apple if Apple charges $100 and you tell me I get MLS and NWSL,
That's
that's
pretty
worth it.
good.
In
That's
my
pretty
opinion,
good.
that's worth it.
Yeah.
With their no blackout things, that's worth
Yeah.
it. And that the I'm picturing an NWSL MLS partnership with the USL's launching of the Super League, because the USL
Oof.
well, the USL Super League is going D1, or they're trying, at least as reports are indicating, to get D1 sanctioning. And a majority, I think the only one that isn't is Dallas Fort Worth. A
Mm-hmm.
majority of the USL cities, Super League cities, have a USL team partner.
Yeah.
So it's stupid for the NWSL. Now, some of them can't, because like racing had partners actively with Blue City.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that club does is like every little header you see is Racing Louisville,
Yep.
or Racing and Lou City's logos right next to each other. Our press passes literally say both
They've got
on
them
there.
both on there.
So they're different, but like Chicago, New York, Gotham, I don't know which one they would choose
New
to partner
York, New
with.
Jersey.
Probably the Red Bulls, since they play in the same
That would be my assumption.
stadium. San Diego, when it eventually launches, OL Reign, which is just, I'm sorry, I'm still butthurt that Olympic Lyon came in and decided to name a Seattle team OL Reign and just drop Seattle from it.
I don't have too much commentary on that. It doesn't
Just
bother
the
me as bad.
dumbest thing. It's just the dumbest thing that we have a Seattle team that we call OL Reign.
Oh wait, so it's wait.
They were the Seattle Reign. The Olympique de Lyons from France entered like a
Huh?
partnership with them. And for those who don't know, Lyons in France is arguably probably the most successful women's club ever.
I did not know that. I'd never
I've
put two and two together. I just thought it was something to do with like the region. Like I thought that was more of like a
the
region name.
Pacific Northwest,
Yeah, not.
Cascadia.
Yeah, like I thought it was something like that. Putrid Sound, like something. No, so literally it's Leon. Wow.
I think the official name of the team is Olympique de Reign.
So that's literally the same as like Real. No, what was it? Chivas USA.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
out of
So they
here.
were founded as the Seattle Reign, and then in 2020, OL Group, the parent company of French clubs Olympique Lyonnais and Olympique Lyonnais Feminine, became the team's majority owner and rebranded the current name, badge, and colors.
Whatever, dude. That's strange. Well, John, pulling it back to racing here, I have to give a shout out to Katie Lund, who in the championship game alone, or in the final, I should say, had 9 saves. Like she really kept racing in this game, despite the offense sputtering a bit.
And yes, she did. She played very well. She played very well outside of that one mistake over these past 3 games. It was just the weather delay, which was
Yeah,
it was a long weather
what, like
delay too. It was like
3 hours,
3 hours.
something
And
like
they
that.
it was 2-3 hours. They had played like 20 minutes or
Yeah.
something like that. Like I think is the worst time to have a weather delay is
Yep.
like midway through the first half.
It's
Midway
like
through
you
the
got an
first or second
extended water
half.
break.
Yeah. Because I think with all that, it just was a perfect storm for racing. They couldn't, with the traveling and all that type stuff, it was just not meant to be.
Yeah.
But they made steps. It's forward progress. They've done a huge amount of forward progress. It sucks it's a moral victory, but like sometimes you have to have moral victories before you can have
Mm-hmm.
real ones.
True. And under Coach Kim, like the team has just gotten to another level, right? Like it's always one a little bit better, a little bit better. So to make it this far, honestly, John, to me, it sets them up great for the playoff run ahead of them. And really, I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to get into the playoff. I don't know if that means OL Reign get knocked out because they're in last place, I believe, for the playoffs. But
Let me double check.
that would be phenomenal. While you're
It
looking on
it's
that,
it's really tight. I know that. So
but last 2 points for me, I really want to heavily emphasize like racing is showing that they can go toe to toe with any of the best teams in the NWSL and can knock off any of them on a given day, right?
yeah,
Um,
put it this way: the Wave are right now in first place. In
mm-hmm.
the span of 3 games, Racing played the number 2, who was 1 at the time, 3 and 4 teams,
Yep.
and they won 2 of those matches.
Yep. And despite the loss, there's a lot of massive positivity coming towards racing at this point. And I just really hope, as fans, we continue to support this team and continue to grow the fan base and continue to grow the NWSL and here in Kentucky. So,
Yeah, there's 6 points out of first right now.
yep.
In 7th.
Right, which is crazy. Like the NWSL is so tight.
It's
And who
really
is
tight.
currently in sixth? Did you say? I apologize if I missed that.
In 6, let me just. In 6 is Washington Spirit, who are 2 points
Okay.
ahead.
Which Racing has had a fair
They
amount of
are,
success against.
to be fair, they are tied with Angel City, who
Ooh.
have been playing really good. I think that heard somewhere they were undefeated or unbeaten, not undefeated, unbeaten since they fired their coach.
Wow.
But Racing has a margin on goal difference with Angel City.
We'll talk a little bit more about racing here in a minute, just kind of wrapping up all of that. But now, John, let's shift to a little bit more of our traditional off the top kind of topics. 2 things that I just wanted to talk about here. The first one, there was a video that you sent in our chat earlier today. There was some kind of scuffle between Emil Knight and a fan and the Fuego game. John, kind of set the scene for what happened.
So the information is still very, very spotty. The video I found was slightly edited, shortened version of another one. No, I sent you guys the full one,
The whole one, yeah.
from TikTok. The one that's going around on Twitter is a little shortened one, and that one's been shared in our main channel of our Discord as well, and it's been shared in the
join our
Railbird.
Discord.
It's been shared on the Railbirds. If you follow League One, you've probably found it. Fuego's supporter group which is Fire Squad, I believe. Squad Fuego.
Okay, that's a pretty good supporter section name.
Someone who has connections with them or something found this video this kid posted, and this video is slightly going viral. Like 5,000 likes, something like that on TikTok, which slight viral.
Yeah,
Slightly. It's
better
slight.
than anything we posted.
Yeah. But it shows. So the players are leaving the pitch. and apparently where the VIP area at Fresno Soccer Stadium, which Lexington fans, if you noticed, I don't know if they just changed where the camera was in this game versus the previous Fresno game, but it was definitely it looked like a different stadium than the last time we played. I don't know if they just changed the side of the field the camera was on, but it was a little different.
I just remember seeing the trees at the end. That's the only signs I had.
VIP area is right where the players walk on and leave, which Toyota is not like that. I walk around where the players' locker rooms and stuff are, but I also at the same time was like 2 feet away from the guy who did this to us, and I just ignored him because I'm not a psycho fan. Anyways,
No.
as Knight and some other players, Nico, Diouf, Mane, trying to remember who else was there. Might have been Balogun and Smart. You know, the African American players specifically, or those of African descent, were walking off the pitch. Something was being said. I can't really make out was being said, and a fan pushed Knight. Now, I will say this: Knight gets heated. He is a very competitive individual. There's been multiple games I've seen him yell at people at the end of the game or other people where he has been restraint. The no-co comeback win, there was that thing with him and Amon near like the dugout. He is a heated individual. But
he's a passionate individual.
So he doesn't take stuff lightly, but he also, I've never seen him like physically get in an altercation with someone. He has gotten in other players' faces, but he has never like pushed, hit, or any of that type of thing.
More of an agitator than a drink stirrer.
You could say he agitated, but again, I have no idea what this story is. A lot of people don't know what's being said, and I'm not trying to like give the fan a pass. I'm just saying because you see after Knight gets pushed, he like chucks something at the fan.
It's a glove. He throws one of his gloves at him.
I couldn't tell if it was a glove or a water bottle or something.
It's yellow, and I think I'm pretty sure he had on yellow gloves in that match.
Yeah, he had those. He has very nice yellow gloves. Anyways, something happened along those lines, and to his credit, Nico and it might have been Smart, like kind of push him out and just get him out of there. But the Fuego security is just not doing anything.
They're not there.
There is one. You can see one because she has the like scan wand thing. If you look, but she's literally just standing. She's just standing there like this, like has her arms out, like in between them. Like the guy just assaulted. You could argue a push assault. I think by the court of law, it can technically count as an assault.
Yes,
assaulted a player, which during every game I've been to, there's always this little announcement. Granted, it said like right when gates open, when no one's there. So that's debatable if anyone hears this announcement. You know, you're not allowed to do this. Just a reminder type thing. It was really weird. But to Fuego's credit, this is not from their supporter group. This is like a standalone individual who was at the game. This is not Fuego's thing or any of that type of thing.
Not a player.
It's not a player. This is no one who's like really involved with the team or at the stadiums consistently that I know of. You can kind of see what might be the beginnings of this when Diouf scores his PK and he goes off and does a similar celebration, and there's fans behind the advertisement thing, and they're doing gestures that very much look like they're flipping off the players, and they're probably saying some other stuff, which I'll say this. I'm fine with a little taunting back and forth. You can yell at players type of thing, but there's a line.
Yep.
There is a line. They're flipping off type of thing. But I posted this on my retweeted what the USL Players Association, I quote tweeted it. Any of the phobic or racist, sexist isms, phobics, any of that type of stuff, doesn't matter if you hate the player, any of that type of stuff. Doesn't matter if that player scored 5 and is doing stupid celebrations in front of you. That's not warranted. That it does not matter. It's just does not matter. There's no excuse for it to do it. It doesn't look good on the team that you're saying you're a fan of. It doesn't look good on anybody.
Nope.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And I would feel that same way if it was a Lexington fan to a Fuego player. Like, you just can't do that. It's not acceptable.
Yes, and when in the Greenville game, there was some fans that did something I'm not going to mention, but I've since talked with those individuals about it. It wasn't anything racist. It was raunchy more so, if any of that type of thing, but it wasn't like there wasn't anything around like you need to be removed sort of thing. It was, hey, watch yourself type thing. But I addressed it when I saw that because we as the Railbirds do not accept anything of that sort amongst our group, and there's not a group in the league that I know accepts it. Especially in American soccer, there's not really any of that sort of thing. There are groups that rub people the wrong way, but no group is racist. No group is like extreme one. At least the exclusionary groups, like we have seen in Europe, type of thing.
There's no major hooliganism or anything like that happens.
Well, there's still racist or anything. There's still racism and racist stuff in Europe. We've seen the whole thing with Venezia Junior last year. Lazio is historically racist. Like, I saw a video because they got drawn with Celtic in the Champions League. And last time they played each other, it was like 2017, and Lazio fans like did the fascist like marching salute down the streets of Glasgow. Yeah. So like, if
God,
I'm just saying this to American fans, one, all, at least in League One, all the groups are very friendly and welcoming of each other. If you message the group and be like, hey, I'm an away fan, I'm coming to visit, you're not going to be like mugged. You shouldn't be mugged. But don't let, and this is more of an outside thing, don't let some European call American racist type of stuff because they have their own issues that they still deal with. It's still a global thing. It's not an American only thing.
Well, I think the long and the short of all of this is any of that kind of behavior is not accepted in sport, in life in general. And I think we got to do our best to eradicate that out of our existence in society, especially in the civilized society around a fun sporting competition that soccer is. Like, it's not, as much as I love talking about it and going to the games and cheering and stuff like that, it ain't that big a deal. So, oh no, what happened, John?
Aaron Rodgers leaves field in the first quarter with an apparent leg injury.
Oh, poor Aaron Rodgers. And speaking of, well, we're completely breaking what we were talking about. There was a comment from earlier in the show. Yes, Mount Olympia in Seattle, or outside of Seattle in Washington, is close enough. Like, you could make that argument as to that is why they're the OL reign, but that doesn't explain.
If they went like the Olympia reign,
yeah,
I would take it. But it's the Olympia Leones.
Yeah, it's that part. So then, John, for our last topic here for Off the Top, there was a new USL League One team announced. Portland, Maine, welcome to the club starting in 2025.
Which apparently, like our producer got a little butthurt because they only have like 70,000 people,
Yep.
and like Bowling Green has like 150,000.
Hey man.
But apparently, from the video they put out, now granted, this is a video put out from the group, so
Uh-huh.
take that what you will. It's a very much a soccer town. It
I mean, it
looked like,
looks like it.
yeah, it looks like it. Raj from Men in Blazers has been there. He said it
Mm-hmm.
was a soccer town. So I'm not denying it's not. What I think this is what America needs,
Yep.
is they need more of these smaller cities
A
that can
thousand percent agree.
be dedicated, because that's what England is.
Yep.
Luton Town, this huge story, is not that big of a city.
Hey, those remodel, that looks pretty nice.
Oh yeah, you know what I found out recently? You know what Luton Town's thing is stupid about their stadium that wasn't up to par?
What?
They don't have underfield. They didn't have underfield heating. So I guess all
Huh.
Premier League stadiums have to have like a way to heat the field to, I guess, make sure it's not like stiff and hard, which is understandable. That's for anybody who's like,
Phrasing.
I'm from Michigan, who, if you have played a sport in like late October, November, when it's cold,
January.
that field is concrete.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that. But I was like, really? That's the one thing that Luton Town's little 10,000 seat stadium didn't have up to par in the Premier League standards, was underground field heating?
Well, and there are ways to kind of go around that, right? Like you can.
They installed it.
Oh,
They
they
got
did.
it
Okay.
installed. Yeah,
I was gonna say,
that
'cause
was like the one thing they had to do.
you
There's
can go
other
like the Vikings and the Packers used to do with like the old like they'd put like basically a tarp over the field and then blow like hot air jets
that
into it.
what was it? The Packers famously did something in like the Ice Bowl. It's like the 60s. They
Mm-hmm.
put like straw or something over the field, and like the Cowboys came expecting to play on like a hard concrete surface, so they were wearing the wrong type of cleats or
Huh.
something like that. I don't know how much credit that has to the game. That's just like a legend I've heard type thing.
Hmm.
But
I
I
mean,
bet
hey,
you there's something in the soccer world about that.
different
Which,
cleat structures have different,
true,
fields that
true.
they perform best
Which
on.
Fuego needs to fix that field, or Fresno,
Yeah,
or
it didn't
whoever.
look right.
That was You shouldn't have a dedicated soccer pitch with that many
Yeah.
patches. Like
It,
that looked arguably worse than the Omaha field.
like it looked like, and I'm being serious when I say this, it looked like the field had some kind of like sickness. Like the field was something was wrong with the turf. Like it had some kind of infection or fungus or something, right?
And that could
I,
be it. And that's hard to fight as groundskeepers sometimes, is trying to stop it. But there's no reason a D1 school with a
mhm.
professional team on that's an actual grass field, at least it appears that way. If that's
Yeah.
turf, that's just shockingly
No way,
concerning.
that's turf. That's grass.
um, there's no reason you shouldn't have. Berea has a better soccer pitch than that.
Yep, absolutely. So, John, pulling back here to Portland, they've been working on this USL to Portland, Maine project since 2019, in an effort to bring the professional ranks to Portland.
Which, yes,
Um,
it appears this is it appears that way. This is a
yeah,
like a crowd, fan funded ish. I don't know necessarily fan owned, but fan funded at least
yeah. I
effort.
think there's still that one owner probably that's got a lot of
Yes,
money, kind of a
by
thing.
the USF regulation, 30% there has to be at least a 30% majority owner.
Yep.
Like one person has to own at least 30% of the team.
But then the rest of the team, I agree with you. It seems like is more fan owned. They put a lot of their funds into upgrading Fitzpatrick Stadium. Doesn't mean anything to me, but I'm sure to the people in Portland, that's like a go-to staple. Um, and then the last part from the article that I wanted to hit on, USL to Portland has made a lot of community building and social responsibilities as a priority. and that's something that the club really wants to focus on. So, really emphasizing diversity, equity, inclusion, and helping upraise underprivileged youth. So, it's really good to see that, especially based on what our previous conversation we were talking about. So the team, won't be in the USL League One next year, but in 2025, Lexington fans, unless there's promotion and relegation that year, look forward to a trip to Portland,
Yes,
Maine. That is.
just as an established things of league changes coming, Spokane and Santa Barbara are joining next year,
Yep.
by all accounts.
Hmm.
Also, North Carolina is leaving for the USL Championship.
Yep.
And then in 2025, as of right now, Portland and Brooklyn, New York, are joining the
Brooklyn.
USL 1. So they're getting out of the Southeast. They're no longer
Yep.
like basically a glorified SEC league.
And really
Um,
breaking into that Northeast with two teams.
yes, they're breaking into the Northeast with two teams. I Portland, Maine in March, late March. I could honestly see Portland. I don't know if they'll do this, but I can honestly see Portland's going to be one of those teams that has like 6 away matches to start,
To
and
start it,
it's
yeah.
tailed end with 6 away matches. Like you just 7 straight home matches for Portland.
I
Go.
mean, depending on, if the stadium has other tenants and stuff like that too, right? Like if
From what I'm reading, the high school plays there too.
oh, okay, so that's not really a competition. It's not like a college, right? Like where you could have like major arguments as to no, this team really needs it.
Well,
But
from what I'm reading, the high school is played there. I don't know if they still do.
hmm.
Wikipedia articles are weird.
Well, I know I'm looking forward to it. I've always wanted to go to Portland, Maine. I don't know why. It just seems like a fun place. There's something about those kind of seaside towns. I've never been to one.
I will
Um, I just
I
think
will
it seems
say
fun.
this: the good thing about USL 1 so far is none of the cities are very trendy or overly
Hmm.
touristy. You could say Brooklyn, but everyone goes to New York, so it's not.
Yeah.
It has tourist traps, but New York is also New York, so it's still like a normal city. But it's not like, and this is no hate on like Savannah. It's not like Savannah, Georgia, Gulf Coast, Alabama, or Gulf Shores, Alabama. It's none of these places that are like
Mobile.
they're like tourist traps, so
Hmm.
everything's going to be absurdly priced to just go to a away game.
And we've talked about like expansion in the USL a little bit, and that's actually a topic I want to talk about probably next week or maybe sometime during the off season. But like, what are those markets that could host a team? I mean, Savannah seems to be right in line with
Savannah has
Portland, Maine.
a Nisa side. They have the Savannah Clovers.
Yeah, that's right. Uh, so could they pull up?
I
Could
am
you pull up somebody in Mobile? Like,
I am curious, and I can do this in the off season when I have a little more time of like breaking down what is the average population size per city per league.
mhm.
Like, what is the MLS average? What is the USL Championship at USL 1 and then NISA? And then figuring out from there,
I
like,
have something
what.
for you actually. Like I have a graphic. It lists all of like the major populations, and then it says if there's an MLS, USL champion, or USL League One. I think it goes to the top 50 population markets. Send me a message
But,
later, and I'll send it to you.
okay.
I have to find it.
My thought is what cities like meet each criteria
Mm,
or like meet or like near the average in, let's say, 5,000
yeah,
people or so, to where, oh, this is like on par with the rest of the league type thing. What is or is not, because you have San Diego, which right now has 3 professional teams. One's folding, they're getting a new one, and they poached the president.
yeah. I saw
Granted,
that.
granted, apparently the loyal like ownership and that sort of thing said they were open to do so. You're welcome to apply to the MLS side,
Right.
and they're just trying to keep their jobs, which I get, but like
I get it.
That's just that. It's smart on San Diego MLS part, but that's just.
And speaking of expansion, there was the announcement a couple weeks ago, USL to Arkansas. I haven't heard anything
I've seen some
negative
stuff.
wise.
They've posted a rendering of like what their supporter group would look like,
Oh, I did see that. I thought you were
and
about to say
there's
the stadium. I was like, dang, I missed that.
or like the general idea, which is just simply standing room with rails, which is what every
Oh
place
yeah, it was
does.
like the end cap, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
It kind of looked like Lou City's the thin end, like the open end with the big jumbotron. It kind of looked like that.
yeah, it was a little
For those who didn't see it,
shorter. It was
yes,
a little
it was
shorter.
short.
It's how every, but that's how you should do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's the safest way, but it's the safest way to prevent like the Hillsborough disaster type stuff, which I don't think that would happen in America. But
Mm. Well, John, with that, we'll go on and jump to the bottom line. And this week, John, we had several matchups. I want to kind of just make sure we covered everything with Racing Louisville before moving on to anything else. Did you have any other notes from the two games that they played? One being the victory last week over the OL Reign on the road in Seattle, and then the unfortunate 2-0 loss in the championship game for Racing Louisville. John, any kind of other thoughts, anything you else you want to talk about with racing before we move on?
no, I'm all good with them.
Cool.
For heads up,
That's
game on
right.
Friday that we'll talk about on Wednesday.
Absolutely. Big game, a lot of playoff consideration in that one. But so, John, we'll move on now and we'll talk about Lou City, who had a match on, was it Saturday against Tampa Bay, where they unfortunately fell with another late goal. Um, Cal Jennings had a brace in that game for Tampa Bay, continuing their red hot streak. And it really, his the second goal especially just sank Lou City into disrepair. Will Harris had an equalizer early in the second half for Racing Louisville, or I'm sorry, for Lou City. My apologies. But Jennings answered, giving Tampa their second goal and the winner. Lou City really lacked a lot of offensive effort again to find an equalizer. I feel like they had some chances, but they kept making silly turnovers and passes were getting intercepted by the Rowdies. And look, traveling down to Tampa to play the Rowdies at in their home stadium, that's no easy task to do. Um, at Lou City, for example, in the 7 games that they've played down there, has 1 win and 6 ties at that stadium. So it's a consistent struggle point for Lou City. So I'm not really surprised that they lost. I thought they would have at least drew, but again,
Well,
Jennings for Tampa had the late equalize or the late game winner to seal that fate.
yeah, and Tampa as a whole has been hard
Yeah.
to play, and they've only dropped 2 games,
Yep.
so they've gotten points out of 14. They gotten points 12 out of 14 games this year at
Yep.
home. So it's a hard place to get any points. They've won 10 of those, by the way, too.
They have.
There's two draws and 2 losses out of the 14 home matches for Tampa.
Tampa's good,
Granted,
man.
Lou is one of those games. Um, it what I wouldn't say this is like Lou City taking a step back. This is just Lou
No.
City running into a good team.
Yes.
There
Fully
was
agreed.
there was a little like crew. One, I will say this: it's hard for me to place coaching in-game stuff on
Mm-hmm.
coaches outside of substitutes, because it's really outside of that. He can be yelling at the players all he wants and like play here, that type of thing. It's more really on the players type of thing. It's not like the NFL where like there's play calling every single time. Like it's
And there is a
really
little bit, but for the most part, you're right.
it's really how you handle subs. That's like in terms of being like an in-game manager or coach. That's like how well you handle substitutions and how you adjust your formation based on the subs. That's really, and that's where I think this is a little on Cruz. He made some interesting substitutions, and like when he made them were
Boy,
interesting
did he.
because they equalized, and then they did not give up. They gave up the second one in the 61st minute, and then it was just a little questionable because he brought on OMB and Gibson right at half.
Mm-hmm.
So that's two of his five subs at the start of the half.
And correct me if I'm wrong, John. I think he more or less ran out of sub windows. Was that what it was? Kind of at the end because he had the halftime and then he had
Sub
two more
one,
singles, right?
yes. Sub windows are kind of stupid in my opinion.
Oh,
I
fully
understand.
agree.
I understand them. There definitely should be certain sub windows, but
Yeah,
it shouldn't be like you can only sub during this certain time or that type of thing. No.
yeah,
It should be you present a guy, and when there is a lack of play, you do it. Now, yes, there's the sub, and if it's a sub window, that's different.
right.
That's where like he can come on as fast as we can get him on.
Yeah,
But if it's like you present him 2 minutes before the sub window, it could be you gotta wait till the ball goes out of play, or you gotta wait till we're setting up a free kick, or that type of thing.
something.
Yeah,
And that can be
that,
several minutes.
yeah. If that is 6 minutes of waiting, that I'm fine with that. But that's still like the chance that could happen.
John about took out his own mic.
But then he does another double switch, bring on Powell's and Marie's in the 67th, and then it gets a little chippy, which Lou was chippy this whole match.
But you have to be when
Six
you're playing
yellows.
Tampa. Like you've got to be a
You
little scrappy.
you
Like
you had to
that's
be
the only way
scrappy,
for
but
them to win.
I don't necessarily agree with 6 yellows scrappy. Like Lexington plays this way sometimes too, and there's just sometimes where I'm like that you don't need to do a foul like that there. That's
But
just my thing.
I want to be clear. Like Tampa is better than Lou City right now. So you've got to try and
Yes.
muck it up. You got to try and make it a little muddy. I mean, it was a pristine evening by all accounts in Tampa, but like you got to kind of make it ground to a halt at times, and sometimes that comes at the sacrifice of you got to play, get a few extra cards. Now, what I haven't done, what I haven't looked at is, are any of the players going to be suspended on card accumulation afterwards? I haven't seen anything about that yet, but who knows?
You had to reach 5. No, it's 8. I looked this up for Tariq. I forget what it's at, but it's like no, yeah, it's 5 for a game.
Oh,
3 is a fine. Maybe. Let me look this up. I looked it up for Tariq, but I don't recall what it is now.
Well, while John is looking that up, just to kind of wrapping up my thoughts here, I really agree with Coach Cruz. Some of his comments at the end of the game, he felt that it was more of a positive second half, and they really showed improvement, even though they did fall short. He also kind of mentioned, and I'm reading between the lines a little bit, this was kind of a moral victory per se because they didn't get blown out. They fought hard, they played hard, but there's only 6 games left, and they're in a fight for the last home playoff game, and it sucks to not take away at least 1 point from that match. Goalkeeper Oliver made some big saves, but there were defensive lapses that continued to cost Lou City, especially when Jennings getting those goals. Uh, Big match coming up for them at home over this coming weekend as they host the SD Loyals, and they will need to maximize points and get that victory just so that they can continue to push forward. Oh no.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi went weird there.
You're good. I was just kind of reading over my notes. I didn't even notice you were gone. My apologies. Uh,
Oh yeah, here it is. 5 for a fine, 8 for one game, 11 for two, and 14 for
wow,
three. And
Jesus.
and each one of those after like a fine is also tacked on to each suspension. I don't know what the fine is, but from the media guide last year, they didn't produce one this year for some reason.
Hmm.
That at least is the criteria.
Well, John, I don't know if you cut out there, but basically, what I was kind of summarizing, Coach Cruz was moderately okay with what happened, and I am too. I would have liked to have seen them get a draw, but it is what it is at this point. This is Lou City for this year, but they host the SD Loyals over this coming weekend, so it'll be very important for them to get all 3 points from that match. Um, as they continue to push upwards in the playoff bracket or in the playoff table. Any final thoughts on Lou City for you, John?
Um, it's they, it's like you said, it's a bit of a moral type victory. They didn't get blown out, type of thing. But that also worries me. Come playoff mentality,
Yeah.
if it's like, oh, we didn't get blown out, we did okay. Okay, this could be a side you're playing in the playoffs, especially if
Yep.
everything goes the way it should, like everyone wins how they should. This would be your second opponent. This would be where you play your second match. That's a little concerning to me, but that's still that can change and stuff can happen. But it should be like, hey, this could be the team right now that we would play if we win our first playoff game.
Well, and even more than that, right? Like we've said before that we seem to think that Lou City seems to play a little bit better on the road. So not saying that they tanked in any way, shape, form, or fashion, but some questionable sub windows, some they seem to really be going for it in the second half, but that first half, not so much. So maybe they were trying to set up a more favorable first round match, or maybe even a more favorable second round match. And just seeing if they can help Tampa bump up the table so they can play Charleston. I don't know. I would rather play Tampa again than Charleston. Or honestly, I'd rather play Pittsburgh more than any of them. I feel like Lou City matches up best with them in a second round match.
Well, Pittsburgh, you want Pittsburgh if you're a Lou fan, because that's
Yeah,
a legit away trip. That's
yeah,
doable
yeah.
on
You can
short
drive
on
that.
on short notice.
Yeah,
That's the thing with like I hate about some of this stuff, because like I was like, oh, the Challenge Cup final would be cool to go to, but it's like going out to North Carolina and I have like 3 days to plan.
Cary, North Carolina.
That's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. So I was watching college football during the rain delay, and up in Raleigh, where North Carolina and Notre Dame were playing, they're having the same weather. So just interesting how close everything was. But John, let's move on to our final pro team of the week. Kind of recapping their action. Let's talk about Lexington Sporting Club. LSC had another tough match with Fuego. We talked about what happened after the match already, but talking about during the match, 2-2 draw with the Central Valley Fuego. Lexington conceded another stoppage time equalizer, the second time in 3 matches that has happened. That goal for Fuego was scored in the 93rd minute, so 3 minutes earlier than last weekend's 96th minute
That's
equalizer.
still basically in the last minute.
Yeah. Diouf scored both goals for Lexington, including a PK in the 12th minute, but Lexington could not hang on to that lead. Throughout the match, Lexington did not control possession. Their defense was strong, but overall, the performance um, was kind of so. It had more highs than lows, but not that many more. But overall, I just kind of want to highlight Diouf, Brown, Balagoon. They all played very well. Despite the draw, Lexington didn't lose, so that's a positive. Put that one in your hat. But in my opinion, Lexington should not be losing to Fuego at all, but especially not twice and in the manner as which they lost twice this season.
I mean,
John, I
lose.
did not stay up and watch the game last night. I watched the highlights this morning. Talk to me about kind of what you saw from the game last night.
Okay, so first off, um, this also goes to NoCo since we haven't recorded since that game ended.
Hmm.
It is hard
Sorry
to
about that.
beat a team two times when you play them three times.
Yes.
It's really hard. Um, Fuego themselves are, yes, they're on their third coach and they had all these chips in order for Lexington to, well, third coach is debatable. They fired their first coach. Their
Yep.
sporting director then steps in and he took a step back for whatever reason, and then they brought up an assistant coach. Um, I will say this: it is really hard to beat any team two two times when you face them three, and one of those games goes the other team's way. It's really hard to do that if you're a really good team. And Lexington is a good team. They're just, I've said this, they seem to be unlucky in the league of chaos. We seem to be on the opposing end of the chaos. And that's just how it is. There's some teams that have been on the good end of the chaos. There's others that haven't been. Omaha has won 8 straight games and they're not in first place. They're like a
What?
point. They're like a point out of it, I think, but they're not in first place because they started off really bad
Yeah.
or struggling. Um, Tormenta is the defending champs, and they're 2 points ahead of us. Type
Right.
thing. Richmond are defending regular season champs, and they are below us in the table. The Red Wolves were the finalists last year, and they're lower than us in the table. So this league is really weird, and it's really hard to judge day to day. Fuego themselves have looked better since we faced them. This when we got a win at home, they took a tail to Madison. They drew with Richmond. Like they're not like Fuego is not just this team that just goes down and gets destroyed. The fight they very much do it, and I will put this to credit. This goal hurt a little more than the Greenfield goal, but I wasn't as mad about it because Knight made a great effort.
Are you getting
It
numb to it as a
no
fan?
no no no. It was a rebound goal. The defense could have. You could argue the defense could have done something a little better to
I would
stop it.
argue.
I would argue the defense could have done better to prevent the ball getting into the box for the
Yeah.
first shot. However, the second shot, it's a rebound goal, and the player has the net wide open to him. It's either he's going to make that or he's going to miss it. And we got hit with the make. It happens. Does it suck? Yes. However, I think this game was really good for Lexington in terms of a building block because they did go out with a little different. Um,
Yeah, they did go out with a little bit of a different kind of formation, and a little bit more moxie. It seemed like, so that was good to see. But I said it last week, and I'll continue to say it. The playoff hunt is over, but I for this year at least, right? So I really think that
I
we
think
need
it's like
to.
we have like a 1% chance still.
Yeah, it's not happening.
It's very.
Uh,
It. I don't. I'm not expecting it to happen. What like looking at the table right now, I can honestly say right now what we're trying to do. We're ninth right now. We are 3 points behind Tormenta,
Mm.
and we are 7 points behind Knox.
Mm.
I would say right now we want to try to jump Tormenta and finish 8th. And
Yeah, which would be great.
I think that would be a good thing, especially since we were picked to finish last in the table. And here's the thing. We are playing great, much better than we were. And I said this in my write up. You could say I'm numb to it, but I'm not really numb. It's the fact of earlier in the year, I feel Greenville we would have lost. That we would have lost that game. We lost to Greenville. We would have lost that game. That wouldn't have been an equalizer. That would have been the game winner earlier in the
Right.
year. The same thing with Fuego. That would have been the game winner. That wouldn't have been, oh, we're getting a draw on the road. That would have been a game winner. NoCo would have been like the Tormenta game that we don't speak of. Like, like that's the thing that I don't think Lexington fans realize is that in the month of August we were the third best team by points, and you can check this. This is from what the league produced. We were in such a hole because of that 5-match losing streak and that rough start that our position on the table is bad because we were in a hole. We have played really good and we're growing that type of stuff, but we're also like I think Stockley's very much building for next year. He's figuring stuff out. We have never seen Brown, Diouf, and Balogun all together.
Yep.
And yes, we got dominated on possession, especially in the second half. But personally, I don't feel like we were dominated watching the game. I don't feel that. Because I don't know if it's just I understand how counterattacking football is played, and that's very much what they played. They controlled the game defensively. They were controlling the ball while not having the ball, if that makes sense. Like, Fuego threw everything in the kitchen sink at us, and they got a goal. It happens. Why we're getting scored, like Churrito's goal that was just after the start of the half, was a banger of a goal. Like, it was just a ripper through the thing. That's when I say we're more on the unlucky side, because that goal, we're just getting world-class goal, not necessarily world-class goals, but we're getting like bangers.
Top quality.
We're not like, it wasn't like Knight. It wasn't like Knight with the equalizer, like came out and it wasn't like Knight did the Lund. Like Knight didn't do the Lund in the Portland game to leave the equalizer. He made the save. It just bounced to the right guy. If that bounces a little to a different way, it's going to a Lexington defender to clear it. It's just one of those things, or like the ball very early that hits the post for Lex that like ricochets off of that. It's what's part of the game, and it sucks to be on the losing side of it right now, and we're on the gut punch end of it, but we also have been the gut punchers. We did it to NoCo. We've gotten more punches than we've given. But that's what happens. We're a first-year side. We're also very young. We're leaning very, very heavy on youngsters to produce. Nico, Diouf, and Balogun are all very young. They're like 25 or under. And we're saying, go be our goal scorers. Go out there and attack and go up against guys who have played longer. Yes, Smart and Machel and Fox are all been around. Knight's been around a bit, but we're still leaning on Jay Gonzalez. Owen Green, yes, is a little more experienced, but he's still on the younger side. Jackson, we play more head. Like Soso is still on the younger side. We're leaning heavily into younger players.
Well, that's what I really hope Coach Stockley continues to do for the rest of the season. Like, I really hope that he, takes the time to really develop these younger players, because he loves his academy, right? He's talked about it hundreds of times at this point, how much he loves the younger guys. So hopefully he can work some more of those in, not at the expense of, some of the more senior players necessarily, but like get this team ready for next year. Like, what is happening now?
Stockley is not going to do anything that's going to cost the game. I will say that right now. No, he's not going to go, well, let's throw in, and this is no hate to any of these players. Let's throw in Diallo, Jackson, throw Phillips in goal, bring in Head. Let's start them all.
Phillips played pretty good, man. In the early season.
You're thinking Causey.
Oh,
I'm thinking the 16-year-old
oh
academy
yeah, no,
player.
no.
The academy, that said he looks like Thor.
Oh yeah, no, not that guy. No, I was thinking of Cosley. My bad.
Yeah, sorry.
But like, let them play. Like, do some stuff now. Get them experience now, so that in 2024, man, they are hitting off like a rocket and are going
I'm fine
from the
with
jump.
do the thing. I'm fine with how they've done Head or Heed. The announcer called him Heed. I don't know if that he was just reading that weird. I think his name is Head, but I've lost my train of thought. Do with what you kind of did with Jackson. Bring him on for a couple minutes. I wouldn't say a couple minutes. Like I don't think that he Head should have been brought in with basically a minute left. Granted, that's Windows stuff.
Yeah, that's padding stats.
But they should bring him on for the last 30 minutes. I will say I was questioning why. I don't know if it was just where Stockley missed a window or something like that. It seemed like we were having players on the field a little too long towards the end there.
Agreed.
But it's just I would like to see more young players get some stuff and starts. But I don't think they're going to go down without a fight. They have 5,
right?
5 matches left, 3 home games, 2 away. That I think are all winnable besides North Carolina, which is still questionable because North Carolina is a team we have played well against.
When is that game though? If it's close enough to the playoffs, maybe North Carolina's already got number 1 seed locked up.
It's the second to last game.
So good chance that North Carolina's got it wrapped up. Maybe they rest some guys. I would.
Yeah, they have 2 straight games. They have Independents who are fighting for their own thing in the playoffs. They're not safe. They have Red Wolves. They have Madison. They have North Carolina, and they have Greenville. 4 out of those 5 games, I think we can win for sure. North Carolina, I think we can win, but I'm not as for sure on the side. Madison has stumbled as of late. The Independents are a hit or miss team. So it's whatever team you get, kind of like Lex has been hit or miss.
That's what I was thinking.
I'm not hate, and that's not hating on Lex. I think it's just the players are very much they play off energy or vibes. And I feel like they get in their heads sometimes or something like that. It's just we'll see type thing. Yeah. And to their credit, as someone who's been on bad teams before, it is hard when you keep getting punched, when you keep taking the gut punches. It is hard sometimes to like just keep dusting yourself off. As much as it's hard for fans, it's hard for players too.
Yeah.
Because they see the stupid trolls. They see the hate comments, all that type of stuff just as much as we do. And it's hard. So, but I will say this. It's positive. This would have been a game we would have lost. Just get the phrase of Stockley or the team as we go again. They're going again Sunday. That's at this point, it's just take whatever the result is, learn from it, go again.
Absolutely. So, John, we will now shift gears out of the pro ranks and into the collegiate ranks. We'll go through our kind of list here, John, and I will kick us off, and I will talk about the Bellarmine men's side, the Knights, currently sitting 1 win, 1 loss, 3 draws in their last or the season, I should say. They had 2 matches this past week. They had a 0-0 draw with Northern Kentucky, and both teams getting that bonus point in the College Cup. Make sure you come back on Wednesday for a full update on the BGSC College Cup, Golden Boot, and Golden Glove competitions, because things are getting spicy. So a 0-0 draw on that one, but they did get their first win of the season over the weekend at Eastern Illinois. Bellarmine in that 0-0 draw with Northern Kentucky notched their first shutout of the season, but did come at the negative side. They didn't get the victory out of it as they could not put the ball in the back of the net themselves. Against Eastern Illinois, Bellarmine earned their first 2-0 goal differential of the season. They really are playing well on the defensive end. Their keeper, Matthew Brozovic, sorry, bro, sorry about that, has secured 2 consecutive clean sheets, and that's some really good momentum as they head into Atlantic Sun conference play on Saturday as they travel down to Conway, Arkansas to take on Central Arkansas. Moving over to the Bellarmine women's, they are still playing really, really well. Overall record right now: 3 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws. They had a little bit of a disappointing 1-1 draw with Moorhead last week in the middle of the week, and then they had a 2-0 loss to number 21 Xavier. And Xavier is really good. I don't know how they're 21st in the country because they've beaten everybody they've played from Kentucky. So, kind of looking at
I
the
haven't
week
played
as
the
a
good Kentucky D1 schools, like the
I
top
mean,
notch ones. No hate on the other
true,
ones. Genuinely no hate on the other ones.
right?
But like UK women's
Oh
is a
yeah,
steam locum, like they are a
steam
freight train.
engine, freight train. Okay.
Freight train. I was thinking like a steamroller is what I
Oh
was
okay.
thinking.
Well, they're
I
not
just
Purdue either, though. They're not the Boilermakers.
yeah.
Speaking of Purdue, we'll talk about you here in a minute. Um, Ozark or Ozorko is emerging as an offensive catalyst for the Bellarmine women's team, especially in getting that goal against Moorhead, really helping build up the attack in the Xavier match. So they have really been playing well. They've kind of got some defensive issues that were really highlighted in the Moorhead matches. They were just kept getting kind of strung out, and Moorhead was able to kind of dice them up pretty badly. The Knights extended their unbeaten streak to 4 games in that match with Moorhead, but we then know over the weekend they did lose to Xavier. Xavier played a really good game, and Xavier, as I mentioned, they're really good. They're an NCAA tournament caliber team. So playing them right before conference play was a really interesting choice by the coach at Bellarmine. Uh, you know, I think the ladies have a lot of confidence because they held them to 2-0, and it was a competitive game to watch. Um, you know, it wasn't a situation where it was a 2-0 blowout, right? Because we've seen that before where it's not even close. Team USA actually had a 3-0 victory over this weekend over Uzbekistan, and it was a lot closer than that. It was not like that in the Xavier Bellarmine game. That game was much closer than 2-0 may seem. But the Knights will now head into Atlantic Sun Conference play where they will travel down to Clarksville, Tennessee for the opener against Austin P. You want to head on over to EKU, John?
Yes, EKU had a rough week. They did not get a win, and they were shut out both times. First against NKU, they lost 2-0 on Thursday. Second interstate
Another
match.
college cup. Yeah. Got to get
Yep,
those points.
second interstate match for the Colonels. Second straight shutout lost interstate. It was rough. They fell behind early in the 29th minute. And then the second goal, they got an Olympic Coast scored on them. They are the Colonels right now, and then they lost 1-0 against the Red Hawks of Miami, Ohio. The Colonels are struggling offensively right now. They can't really seem to buy a goal, and Crick can only do so much defensively. Their defense is playing really solid. Uh, they it's either how stats are being kept by some schools, or
We talked about
because
that.
just for my just fair warning for y'all, most stats are being kept by some work study kid being told what to put in, or a work
Yeah,
study kid was told if the ball is in the box and they kick it towards the goalie, it's a shot. So you can take some stats as they will. That's why with our standing stuff, we're really only taking kind of straightforward stats with some of our golden races. Um, so it's hard. The defense is playing well. They've been forcing a lot of shots off target, but they can't buy a goal right now. They can't really buy a goal, and it's a difficult thing. Not scoring, they've been having good shots at goal. They just haven't found the back of the net, and it can be an issue at times. You have to. And sometimes teams will hit a block where they can't buy a goal to save their life, but they're getting right there. And then once they break through, that's kind of when it comes in bunches. And I think that's what's going to happen with the Colonels, or what they hope is happening when they enter conference play.
absolutely. John, you want to head over to Big Blue? Knock them out too?
Yeah. So unfortunately, uh, in the Governor's Derby, UK fell behind three. Yeah, they fell behind 3-0 by the 57th minute to Louisville. In Louisville, they managed to get 2 goals back in the second half, but they were kind of all for naught. Just kind of gimme goals. Casper Moles did make a career high 9 saves in this 4-2 loss, but men are the similar way. I think their coach brought in a little too many transfers, and he's relying a little too heavily on them offensively to do producing, and I think it's just figuring out how they work together, because Moles is playing good. He's a sophomore, and he's playing really good. It's similar to EKU. It's similar a bit to NKU women's, who they're more on the upper track. There are a lot of really good keepers in the state that are on bad teams.
Yep.
And yes, you could say their stats are inflated by being on bad teams, but there's something to be said when you're making a lot of saves and you're letting in 1 or 2 goals, and your team can't get a goal. Yes, Moles let in 4 goals, but if you watch that game, they didn't have an answer for the Cardinals' attack. And he's like fending for his life back there. So it's hard. It's hard to judge. And that's what college soccer is really weird in general. But the Wildcats finally ended their skid of back-to-back losses, which that was the first time they lost. Their second loss to Louisville was the first time they lost back-to-back games since October of 2017. Officially in the regular season, they did technically lose 2 exhibition games in 2020, but that's spring ball, so that's not really.
Yeah, it doesn't quite count the same.
Yeah, but it looked like Kentucky was going to lose to Lipscomb after they fell behind 2-0.
I was cheering for the former BJFC Golden Lion, Will Bryan, so hard. He almost had a goal in the first half, and I was cheering so hard for him. Shout out to Will.
Yeah, but it was rough. They nearly.
That would have been embarrassing.
Yeah,
for
that
UK
would have
to
been
lose that one.
But they found some life and got 3 goals back. They tied it. They got they got their first goal right back. They then tied it a little into the second half, and then they got the winner in the 59th minute. It was a little rough game, but they seem to be back on track. They'll kick off conference play, which they weirdly have non-conference games once they start conference play in the Sun Belt against South Carolina on Friday.
Yeah, college soccer seems to have at least one or two midweek non-conference games sprinkled into their regular season conference games. It's kind of odd.
Yes. But then the women are rolling. They have
They are
won.
probably the best team in the state.
They have not lost a game all year. They've had one tie, and they've won all other games. They are on a 6. I think it's 7. I don't know. They are on an unbeaten run. They've won 3 straight games. They have in those 3 straight games they've won. No. Is it? My mind is scrambled right now.
It's all good, man.
I'm double checking something. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I wrote that for Belmont. Sorry, they have won 4 straight matches. They are on a 7-match unbeaten run. This is what happens when you have 2 games. And you basically try to write an article for those
For
2
both.
games. They are on a 7-match unbeaten run. They've won 4 straight games, and in those 4 straight games, they have not surrendered a goal. They have outscored their opponents 11-0. They've had 2 straight 3-0 wins. They are rolling. And it's funny, Rhodes did not score in either of those 3-0 wins. Her scoring streak ended with the Illinois match. She has not scored since. They've gotten some help from their Icelandic girl, who I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name.
Oh, come on. You don't want to butcher it? I'm about to butcher one.
Ulfstratir.
I'll take it.
I don't know.
I'll take it.
I don't know how you do it. But they've been playing really good, and they got their first SEC matchup against Texas A&M coming up in Texas A&M.
You didn't mention my favorite part about them.
What?
One of their 3-0 wins was against Iowa State. Eat it, Cyclone fans. Go Hawks, baby. F State.
No one cares about the Corn State.
Hey, man, you take that back. Corn is gold. It's delicious.
Y'all's most significant thing. I will take the Hawkeyes producing Jack Campbell and Sam Laporta for the Lions. But y'all's most significant moment of football is the fact that y'all wave to children.
It is the greatest tradition in all of college football, and I don't want to hear it.
It's a 3-year-old tradition.
First one.
It's a 3-year-old tradition. It's a great tradition.
It was fantastic. It's older than that. It's
sure?
It's like 5. It's at least 5 years because I moved to Lexington in.
Sorry. 15? It's 5 years older. 5 years.
17.
That's not much of a tradition. 18? That's not that much of a tradition. It's a great tradition. I love it.
I think it started in 15. I'll look later.
They got foam fingers for it and everything. It's dope.
Go.
However,
let's go Hawks.
That is the most significant thing that's come out of y'all's anything because y'all play defense for offense.
That's right. That's right, baby. If we can't score on offense, the defense can. Let's do it. Anyways, that's a different podcast for another day. John, if UK women who beat Iowa State, again, F State, if they're the best team in the state, the second best team by far has to be Louisville Cardinals men's team, who had a phenomenal week. After getting ranked as high as number 7 last week, they scored 4 goals on number 19 Kentucky, who only scored 2 to secure, as John mentioned, the Governor's Derby. Again, getting bragging rights over their in-state rivals for, I believe, like the 4th straight year. Or ended the streak or something like that. I don't remember at this point.
UK, let me look at this streak.
You look at that. But the U of L also had a phenomenal performance against number 4 ranked Syracuse in managing a 2-2 draw with the defending national champions. So overall, it was a great week to be a Cardinals fan. On the men's soccer side, Louisville's offense is firing on all cylinders, scoring 6 goals last week alone. Um, they have 11 goals over their last 3 matches. Forward Gage Guerrera and the other forward, I'm just going to use their abbreviations, KG. They're absolutely leading the attack. Guerrero has been a transformative star
Oh,
for the Cardinals after
he
transferring
is
from Army.
shot.
Yeah,
This past week, he is now technically, I believe he is tied for first in
yeah,
the
6
Golden Boot.
goals in the last 4 games. He
He
is
is
a
tied
threat.
for second because also to a point of the Golden Boot or in the College Cup in general, Alice Lloyd finally wised up and decided to report some of their stuff, which apparently, according to their website at least, their women's team has 13 players,
Oof,
1 keeper.
Jesus,
So,
Jesus.
but their website
Uh,
finally produced thing. But the Campbellsville versus Alice Lloyd matchup got turned to an exhibition game or something. I go off of what the school stats
yep,
say.
same.
And
Agreed.
last time I checked, Felix Balboon, who we sent out a graphic saying he was a Golden Boot leader, had 7 goals. He doesn't. According to this latest thing I checked, he has 5. And the best, I guess, is the Alice Lloyd match got officiated or officialized because he scored 2 in that.
Right.
So sorry to Felix, you've dropped down. It is now Carson Smith of Georgetown Women's who's the leader because she's got 3 assists, unlike Gage and Jordan, who have 0. So,
Well, and Gage is, as I mentioned, he is on a tear for the Cardinals. He scored the equalizer late against Syracuse, showing how clutch he really is.
he had 4 goals this week.
Yeah. Yep. 6 goals in the last 4 matches. Louisville's off to the best start in program history with 4 wins, 0 losses, and 1 draw. The Cardinals have shown that they know how to win these difficult kind of games. That comeback against Syracuse, that's nothing to shake a finger at. Like, Louisville rallied from being down on the road against the defending national champions and an elite program this year. It shows grit, it shows resiliency, it shows a lot of mental toughness. Goalkeeper Alex for them has been solid in the net. He made some very key saves against Kentucky and against Syracuse to keep those games where they were. Head coach John Mitchell Hayden has his side playing at a really high level. They are dominating in opportunities. They outshot Kentucky 26-29. And Louisville is absolutely positioned to take the ACC by storm. Syracuse was their hardest opponent in the ACC, and they already got a draw with them. Overall, it was a really good week, winning the Governor's Derby and taking home a point or a draw at least with Syracuse. They will now move on to more conference games this week as they will play Virginia Tech and North Carolina State in some very important ACC competition. So if Louisville men's is the second best team in the state, uh, the Louisville women they might be like the second worst.
No.
Maybe
There's
not that
worse.
bad. I'm
There are
over
worse.
exaggerating.
Maybe the
They're
second
pretty
worst
bad.
of the
The
D1
D1ers.
schools.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot of notes for them just because it wasn't a great week. 2-0 loss to Indiana, and then I'm going to call it what it is, an abysmal 2-0, or I'm sorry, 2-2 draw with Wyoming. The offense continues to struggle. Yeah, they found a little bit of a groove against Wyoming, but against an opponent like Wyoming, you would expect the Cardinals to score 4 or 5. They managed to only get 5 shots against Indiana. and they only had 7 in the match with Wyoming. Uh, their defense and goalkeeping is pretty good. It keeps them at least within reach. Floyd, their keeper, especially in that Indiana game, had 9 saves. Um, and at times the defense in front of her has looked pretty good, but overall a very, very disappointing non-conference season for them. Only 1 win in 6 matches. They have failed to meet their expectations of wanting to play for an ACC championship, and especially with any thoughts towards the NCAA tournament. I think you can go on and kiss that goodbye unless they go on a magical run in the
There's still the
ACC tournament.
tournament.
Yeah.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, well, so did Florida Gulf Coast, right? Like, it is what it is. They now pivot to ACC play, like I mentioned, where they will play Virginia on Saturday, who is also another really good team. And I truly think at this point it's about experience for the younger players. If they go on a bit of a run, sure, play out the season. But if I'm the coach of Louisville women, I'm starting to plan for 2024 already.
Already? They haven't even started
Already.
conference play. You're already throwing out the
Fold the tents up. We're
season.
done
You
here.
could be like UK women's last year. UK women's rolled in non-conference, and then they had 1 win in the conference play. They could flip the script. Have some faith. Have some faith.
Make me have faith. Like, give me something, Louisville women, to be faithful.
They didn't lose like your alma mater.
Hey, whoa! You watch your mouth. We'll get there. Let's talk about a school I used to work at, though. Morehead State.
Morehead had a up and down week. They tied Bellarmine, which you could make a debate if the women of Bellarmine are better than Morehead or not.
They shouldn't be, based on like their years in Division One. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty good result for Morehead.
Yeah, Gibbs is still among one of the best keepers in the country, or at least in the state. I'm not tracking the whole country. It already takes me like 3 hours to do the stats for one state. I don't even want to think of like Texas or California.
Oh God, no. New York, Florida.
New York's not bad. Think about it. Genuinely think about how many schools you can think about in New York.
Syracuse, Rutgers, SUNY,
Rutgers is New
all
Jersey.
the SUNY school.
Rutgers
Man,
is
they
New
are
Jersey.
They are New York
They
City
are
school.
in New Jersey. They are a New York City school, but they are in New Jersey.
Whatever. Speaking of New York, the Aaron Rodgers out for the rest of the game.
Good. Anyways, so they tied with that. Gibbs got 7 saves. They got the the Eagles would equalize against the Knights. So, no, wait. God, my brain is mush by the time we get to this point, especially on Mondays. Anyways, the Eagles blew the lead because they got the lead with 57 seconds.
Yeah, they had the lead from early,
but they got the Knights got the equalizer in the 58th minute. Sorry, but then NKU women's, who are also rolling right now, had Morehead come into their home and they rolled through them 3-0. Gibbs did make 9 saves, but she's another case of someone who has no help.
Yep.
She's just being launched at. They'll kick off conference play soon against Little Rock on Sunday, but first they'll host UNC Asheville on Thursday.
Nice. Who's next? My team, my Murray State Racers, had a
I mean, murdered state.
oh yeah, yeah. It was not a good week to be a Racer fan, in the soccer world at least. I hear our football team's pretty good though. Anyways, they had two games this past week. One was a 5-1 beatdown to Oklahoma down in Norman. Which, I mean, come on, you're Murray State. You're going to Oklahoma. What do you expect? You didn't expect to win, did you? I know Coach Matt Ledge did not expect to win that game. It was more for experience and to help build the brand and stuff like that. But what was even worse than that loss, in my opinion, was a 2-0 loss at home to SEMO. I don't get it. A former conference foe in SEMO comes into your place and beats you like that. No shot.
That's Southeast
Uh,
Missouri State for all the people who are confused.
oh yeah, sorry. SEMO, Southeast Missouri State, whatever. Uh, so kind of just hear my notes from the week. In the 5-1 loss to Oklahoma, it really showed a lack of talent on the field, and it definitely showed a lack of depth when players were getting subbed off and stuff like that against a top tier opponent like the Sooners. The Racers did get a goal, which is a positive thing because that goal made it 1-1, so it wasn't a complete blowout from the get go. They did have some defense issues. Well, I'm being very polite. I would call it a major concern, if I'm being honest, especially in the way they played against Oklahoma. They were unable to rebound from that loss at home in their final tune-up match against SEMO. Being shut out on their home pitch really raises questions about how good this Murray State team can be. SEMO is not very good either, so it's another team that they should have at least drew with, if not beaten. Um, so dropping both those matches this past week really means that the Racers have very little to no momentum heading into conference play. However, it's a new season for them, and there's a lot of reason to be optimistic. Based on what happened last year with the Racers, they were the 8 seed heading into the Missouri Valley Conference playoff, and they made it all the way to the championship game and lost in the 59th minute against a team that had beaten them handily in the regular season. So, Racer fans, it's not quite over, but I think I hear the fat lady warming up her pipes.
That's where you give up on people way too soon.
Give me a reason to come back. Let's
You
talk,
were the Miami fans that left after Messi got subbed out.
or that didn't show up when he didn't play in the game over the weekend.
Oh, he didn't play.
No,
I don't know.
he's
The
out
Messi, the,
on duty.
oh yeah, the Messi talk finally has like sizzled down. So I'm not getting a report every time the man takes a step. So I wasn't following that.
John, let's head up to NKU to close out your part of the reports for this week.
So NKU men are the only D1 school to have yet to get a win. However, uh, they yet have gotten a win. They did take like a whole week off
They
last
did. They
week
had a
and
week
didn't play
off.
a match. They only have one loss. They had tied 3 straight games. One of those being against Bellarmine in a very boring affair.
Yeah,
That
very
like
unwatchable.
watching that and then watching like UK U of L was very interesting because like UK U of L at least looks like good soccer and high powered soccer. Until like the end of the NKU Bellarmine game, it just looked like guys kicking the ball back and forth. Like there was like they were walking. Like both teams were just walking. And there would be like one kid who would make a run and they would try to do it, but then it'd just be walking. I was like, what is going on right now?
Yep. Excuse me. Yeah, that one was a hard one to watch.
But then unfortunately, the Norse's draw streak came to an end when they lost at home 2-1 to Robert Morris, who scored um, both games or both goals with less than 15 minutes left. NKU actually had a 1-0 lead for a majority of the game, but the Patriots of Robert Morris would score in the 77th, and then they would bag the game winner with just 3 seconds left on the clock, at least according to the official box score. I don't know how accurate that is, but it was basically like a gut punch that Lexington experienced, but this time in the favor of a loss. Uh, they'll go up against Bowling Green. They're kicking off conference play, playing Bowling Green, and then Oakland, both on the road. NKU women, however, had a huge week, 12-point swing in the College Cup standings with 2 dominant wins over EKU and Moorhead, who I've already spoken on those 2 games already. Kowalski for NKU has been huge.
She's a
Reminder,
phenom out there.
you could argue she's the best keeper in the state. She doesn't have necessarily the saves numbers because she's on a little bit of a better team, but last I checked, she is right now 5th in saves, but she is second in shutouts. The first being Mars Josephine of UK Women's. However, Mars, as much as I love her because she played for Lexington, she has not had to work, whereas Kowalski has had to work.
She's had to put
Mars,
in some performances.
yeah, Mars Josephine, put it this way, Josephine has 5 shutouts but 14 saves. Kowalski has 4 shutouts and 36 saves.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah, so and she's right up there towards the top. There's a clear cut of like 5 of them that are starting to go out, and she's the only one with more than 1 shutout of those top 5. So,
and when you have a 12-point swing like that in 1 week in the Challenge Cup, I would
yeah,
be hard pressed to believe they're not going to be in the top 5. So welcome to the top 5, NKU women.
Last Challenge Cup standings, they were at 7 points.
7. They added 12.
And they were 9. And so now they are, at least last we checked, on the UK women have to up their score with this, but this would have tied them with the UK women.
Yeah.
UK women have obviously gone up a little bit, but they have rocketed into it. And they've just dominated. 5 goals scored, 0 conceded. Getting scoring from basically anyone. Like they're a full on, their offense is sharing the love type thing. Everyone's scoring. They're on a roll, and that has to do with their coach Sheehan, who I just like the most legendary soccer coach among at least the D1 coaches. For those that didn't read the preview, this man started the program in 1998. He has like 2 losing seasons in his career. One of them being, was last year, but the NKU, granted, a lot of times they haven't been in D1 long, but this man is like a legend among coaches, at least in Kentucky.
Well, and speaking of legendary coaches who have been with a school since the start of the program, but on the opposite end of that current scale is the WKU women's program. A tough week, kind of okay results though? Question mark. I don't know. I don't know what to think of this team. Overall, 1 win, 2 losses, 5 draws.
Don't act like you didn't make a long-winded ranting post about it. If the coach has a hot seat that you sent to us, like, should I do this? And then like 5 minutes later, it's like, wait, never mind. It's not as bad as I thought.
It's one of those things, right? Like you see that record, 5 draws, 2 losses, And like it's not happening in a way that you would expect from a program that continues to say this is the year we're gonna win the conference title, we're gonna make the NCAA tournament, and you've got the
What do you
same
want
guy
them to
at
say? What do you
coach.
want a coach to say?
I want him to follow it up. Like,
Yes, they should follow it up. But what would you want a coach to say? Is like, we might just draw every game. Like,
well, that's
if
what.
you're a player, are you gonna go there? Like, oh, he doesn't even care.
Well, I mean, it would be more truthful.
I mean,
But
there's times he's probably truthful with maybe his captains or something like that, like the
yeah, like we have
leadership
no
team or
shot.
how it goes. But
Yeah.
you're not gonna like in an official press release type manner go like, well, we might do good in conference, we might have a shot at the title, but we're more likely going to draw every game.
Well, and Coach Nadell has had a very good run. Except for he's got the wins, he's got the draws, he just doesn't have the hardware. And I just get kind of concerned at you've been at a place for like over 20 years and you ain't got no trophies, you ain't got no NCAA tournament appearances. But
Have they
anyways,
always been D1 in soccer?
I believe so. So I don't. That was so in what 2006, 7, something like that. That's when we had the shift from NCAA D1A and D1AA to FCS and FBS, and that kind of makes some of the things kind of confusing. They've been in all kinds of different leagues and stuff like that. Um, from the Ohio Valley Conference to, now Conference USA and so forth and so on. So they've had a lot of opportunities to beat other teams. They just haven't yet. And that's exactly what happened this past week. They had a 0-0 draw on the road at Evansville, and then they went up to Purdue and actually played a lot better than I expected. But they didn't get the win. A 2-1 loss for the Toppers in that one. Overall, like I mentioned, 1 win, 2 losses, 5 draws to start the season. Not quite the start that Coach Nadell would have wanted. WQ has really struggled offensively with only 3 goals over the last 5 matches. After 6 in their first 2 matches. Now, granted, that's a little bit inflated because they beat a non-Division One opponent by 5 goals. So the defense and the keeping have been solid. Maddie in goal for them has been very good. She's been able to keep them in a lot of matches. She kept them in that Purdue match, especially. She's had 4 shutouts so far. But the offense just continues to fail this team. And I don't know if it's because of poor design on the attack and the effort that the team is putting into it, or if they've just played some good keepers or what. So I don't quite know where to put that blame on, but the poor start is a little bit of a concern for a long term or a long tenured coach, I should say. Um, they have literally no momentum heading into conference play. And they have their biggest rival coming to town on Thursday, the 100 Miles of Hate, the rivalry with Middle Tennessee, now looms even larger than it normally does because WKU needs a win. They need to continue to build up the resume and push for that Conference USA title. Because right now, offensive woes, disappointing results are really making me start to question what the future of this club is or this team is. So, but John, with all of that out of the way, that will wrap up today's episode of the Bluegrass Soccer Cast. As always, if you enjoyed our show and you would like to support the show, we do have a Buy Me a Coffee account. Feel free to support the show in any way that you can. We keep our content free here because we want to keep you all as informed as everyone else is about soccer in our state. So if you're interested in that, feel free to scan the QR code or hit the link down in the bottom. We Sorry, I got completely sidetracked there for a second, finding my place in my notes here. We always like to thank everybody for watching and joining us on this journey. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media channels like Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at at BG Soccercast. And make sure you give us a listen on all your favorite podcasting platforms such as Spotify, Google, YouTube, Apple, iHeartRadio, and so many more. When you're on those pages, make sure you hit like, follow, share, subscribe, whatever the button says. And then let other people know about our show. Continue to promote us and engage with us on our social media platforms. And join our Discord. It's pinned at the top of our Twitter page or our X page, whatever. So make sure that you join our Discord. But with that, I'm Jimmy. That's John. And we will see you all on Wednesday.